what we chanted was just a few minutes, but it's so powerful because the vibrations that we chant are not material. They are actually transcendental. That's why they are known as mantras. Man means the mind, and tra means to rest. So we all know that the word mantra actually means a place where the mind can actually rest. In this world, I think you will know from experience that it's very difficult for the mind to rest anywhere. Very difficult. If I ask all of you not to see who's coming in, you will immediately look at who's coming in. Whatever that you're supposed to hear, the mind will tell you, let's look elsewhere and do something else. It is the nature of the mind, you see. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's how the mind is. Sometimes when you have a program and you have young children running around, the adults come and tell us, oh, we're very distracted by the young children. Actually, it's not the young children who are the distraction. It's our mind. Nothing wrong with the young children. Young children's nature is to run around. Madhuri is amazing. She's just sitting there like a sadhu. Madhuri, you're so good. You're more still than all the adults put together. But that's the truth. Children move, right? You can't keep them still. And so every single sound, every single movement, every single what we call source of energy or movement is considered to be a distraction for the mind. It's the nature of the mind. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, the mind is known as chanchal. And it's very difficult for the mind to concentrate. And that's why Bhagavad Gita tells us this mind can either be a friend or it can be a foe. It could be a friend to you or it could be your enemy. Why is the mind your friend? The mind is your friend because if you engage the mind in hearing the holy names of the Lord, or if you engage your mind, then your senses will follow with your mind. Have you noticed that? Where your mind goes, your senses actually go. So if your mind is concentrating on something, your eyes, your ears, everything will be moving towards that object. In the same way, if your senses are not engaged by the mind, and if your mind is not controlled by your intelligence, then wherever the senses go, the mind goes with the senses. This is very important. If you smell something nice, your mind goes there. If anyone's smelling prasad coming from the kitchen, they will only think, when is he going to finish? That's the mind, right? It's the nature of the mind. But a mind that is not controlled is a mind that moves. So we see something beautiful and the mind is distracted. We see something or we hear something, again the mind is distracted. It's very easy for the mind to be distracted. But how does the mind become focused? No material vibration can focus the mind. Shastras are very clear about it. You can do whatever you want. You can watch the TV for a while and maybe your mind is there. But you can't watch the TV forever. You can't. You know? Two people who love each other may be talking to each other and for a while they are concentrating on each other. But that also cannot last forever. Nothing in this material world can actually control the mind. It's only for a while. And even if it is for a while, very often it is an artificial imposition. Because eventually, right, the nature of this world is that everything deteriorates. In Bhagavatam, the nature of this world is described as bhautikanam cha bhavanam. That means everything in this material world, it has one very consistent factor, and that is deterioration. Everything is deteriorating. We are deteriorating. The moment we are born, we are actually dying. You all know scientifically that's what's happening to us. Nobody says I'm 10 years young. Everybody says I'm 50 years or 60 years old. Because even in normal parlance, we all recognize, even science recognizes that we are deteriorating every day. And not only does this sharir deteriorate, but Bhagavatam tells us that if we are not fixed with transcendence, then even our relationships will deteriorate. Even if you have the best relationship in the world, it must end eventually because either death will take it away or some happening will come and people will distance themselves from each other. This is a very important point. It is stated in Bhagavatam that just like in the ocean, logs come together for a while and they are together, and then the ocean disperses them. In the same way, we come together, and for a while, because our destiny allows us to meet each other now. But if we don't make an opportunity or take the best opportunity to use this time, this valuable time, well, then in a matter of moments, we will all be divided. In fact, in about 2 hours, definitely, we'll all go our separate ways, whether we like it or not. I mean, they are wonderful guests, they're wonderful hosts, but we can't sit on their heads the whole night, isn't it? We'll have to leave also. Everybody has to leave. Everybody has to leave. So this is the point. And what has this got to do with what we did today? The reason why we speak about the nature of the mind is because you have just spent 10 minutes trying to understand how powerful chanting of the Lord's holy names is. It has so much energy. There is so much transcendental vibration to it that even if you did not believe in the power of the holy name, even if you don't want to admit that there is something there, at least in your heart you will recognize that something is there, which is different from a material energy. That's what many atheists have even told us. People who do not believe in the presence of God, after chanting for 1 full hour of the holy names, they actually come and tell us, quietly of course, because they don't want to make it known, but they tell us quietly that there is something here we don't understand. It's not something we can measure materially. It's very difficult to measure transcendence in a material way. Very difficult. It's like comparing apples to oranges. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So this chanting of the holy name of the Lord is very, very powerful. And throughout the history of Bhagavatam, we have seen how powerful it is. For just like, when you go to see a doctor, you sometimes, if you have a headache, the doctor will probably give you something. But if you have something very specific, sometimes we self-medicate ourselves, right? We go to the pharmacy, we get some medicine. But sometimes you need something very specialized for your own condition. And in Kali Yuga, and this is Kali Yuga now, in this Kali Yuga, it is very nicely stated in Bhagavatam, Kali dosha nide rajan. In this day, in this Kali Yuga, though this Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there's so much of faults in the Kali Yuga. It is stated in Bhagavatam very nicely that in Kali Yuga, we have very short memories. If I were to ask you, to list down a list of all your 3 meals every day for a week, it's going to take us some time. If I asked you to tell me, what you wore every day, and tell me exactly what you wore, it's going to be very difficult. If the wife asks the husband, tell me what I've been wearing every day, you'll be in trouble. Because he won't be able to remember. He can't remember his own clothes. How will he remember somebody else's clothes? So our memory is very short in this day and age. Second thing Bhagavatam tells us is that in this age, another symptom of Kali Yuga is short lives, short memories. We are always very lazy by nature. Not lazy to work materially. Materially, we're very hardworking, Kali Yuga tells us. Because everyone wants money, everyone wants wealth, and they equate happiness with how much you have. We believe in this material world of consumerism that being surrounded by wealth will make us happy. But we all know that, no matter how much bank balance we have, it's no guarantee that we will be happy. Only you know before you sleep how your day has been. Nobody needs to tell you. You know how your day has been. So wealth is not the precursor to success or happiness. But in Kali Yuga, we are lazy. We are lazy to advance ourselves spiritually. We don't have faith, very little faith, and we think that we can do all this after we retire. Generally, that's the idea. If you see someone young taking up, bhakti yoga or devotional service, we tend to become worried. Oh, is he going to concentrate on his studies? Is he going to be distracted? When I took up devotional service, my parents were so worried. Oh, he's going to be distracted. But when I did well in my studies, then they had nothing to say, right? They saw that it doesn't distract you. In fact, it enhances your life. So this laziness is very strong. And we find so many reasons. Very often what happens is gatherings become rituals in Kali Yuga. We come together, we feel good, we go back, but nothing changes in our lives. There's no incremental change. But in material life, every year we are incrementally trying to improve ourselves. But in spiritual life, we are not bothered. So this is Kali Yuga. And therefore, the last symptom of Kali Yuga, which is very important, is because of this laziness, and because of a lack of understanding of spiritual knowledge, we are misguided. We believe we are going in the right direction of materialism, but we don't realize that at the end of our life, nothing we have worked so hard for will ever come with us. In fact, it will definitely not come with us. Nothing comes with us actually. We came with nothing, we will leave with nothing also. But this doesn't impress upon us actually. That's why, Yudhishthir Maharaj was asked by the Yaksha in Mahabharata, what is the most wonderful thing in this world? And he said, the most wonderful thing in this world is that every day someone is dying, but those who live believe that they will live forever. That is the most wonderful thing in the world. Isn't it true? It's wonderful in a crazy way, because we know everyone is dying around us, but in our hearts we always think, okay, fine, he's dead, but I will live. We go for funerals, we wake up for a while, oh, somebody has died, my turn could be next. But then we think of all the people in the funeral room, I think others will die first, but I will live. Somewhere in the back of our head is a subtle idea, it won't be me now, it won't be me now. Other persons, maybe you, but not me. So this is foolishness, you see. This is the misguided precept of our minds. And therefore, Kali Yuga says one last symptom, that we are all ultimately disturbed. We're always disturbed. Either someone disturbs us, or something disturbs us, or some event disturbs us, some circumstance disturbs us. Sometimes, if nothing is disturbing, we create something that disturbs us. We speculate why he didn't talk to me, why she didn't smile to me. We all came together. He said Hare Krishna to everyone. I was just next to everybody, but he didn't say Hare Krishna to me. Because mind is like that. You go for weddings. Most people come back from these social events very disturbed. Either they heard somebody upgraded and bought a new car and they are stuck with an old car, they become disturbed. Or they heard somebody is doing very well. Or they heard all these people are meeting all the time. How come I'm not part of the group? All kinds of things. I'm not plucking these things out from the air. People come and tell us that. So it's very natural. It's happening. And from your faces, I know that it's happened to you too, because it shows, you see. So this is why Kali Yuga, we cannot continue living this way, because our happiness is temporary. Happiness is defined in Bhagavatam materially as the temporary cessation of misery. What a terrible definition for happiness, isn't it? If happiness is a temporary cessation of misery, it's like taking a Panadol every time you get a headache and thinking that my headache has gone away. You and I know it's not gone away, it's just been suppressed. So your miseries are just being suppressed. Your anxieties are just being suppressed. Because you're finding material solutions to material problems. If material problems are deteriorating or problematic, what makes us think material solutions are not like that too? That's why Prahlad Maharaj, you all know Prahlad Maharaj, right? He's a very famous devotee. Because of his great devotion, he was harassed by his father Hiranyakashipu, and finally the Lord came in the form of Narsingadev, half man, half lion, and he vanquished Hiranyakashipu. And Prahlad Maharaj made a very good observation of human life. Dukkhaushadam tarapi dukkham atadhyayam. He says that the material solutions that living entities try to find to their material problems are very often greater and worse than the problems themselves. Greater and worse than the problems themselves. And you have seen how sometimes you try to solve a problem with a material solution, but then that material solution produces another problem. Just like you go to a doctor, the doctor says, look, take this medicine, it'll help you. But you have to take another medicine, because if you take the first medicine, you get gastric. So I have to give you the second medicine now. That's the exact principle Prahlad Maharaj is talking. And we see it all the time in the world. All the time. So actually, this material life, Shastras have proven very clearly, in 5 minutes, Shastras have proven how difficult this material life is. The only question then is, how do we cross this ocean of birth and death? This ocean of samsara. How do we cross it in a peaceful and a blissful way? The solution is in what we did for 10 minutes. It's actually chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you look at any sastras in our Vedic culture, every sastra will tell you in Kali Yuga, while all other mantras are recommended, there is one specific mantra in Kali Yuga that Brahmaji, our creator himself, recommends. And that is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It's just a specific medicine for a specific age. It's something, you can go to a GP only so long. After a while, you have to go and see a specialist. The specialist gives you something which will help you. And that's the remedy that Brahma is giving. He's saying that of all the chanting of the mantras in this world, during Kali Yuga, the easiest, the fastest, and the most potent is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama. Bhagavatam tells us that there are no hard and fast rules to this chanting of this holy name. Why? Because the holy name itself is pure. You know, when something is very pure, you don't need to purify it, isn't it? It is self-purifying. You take soap, nobody washes soap, and then you take bath with the soap. Soap is ready, it's a cleansing agent. You don't have to wash it. So in the same way, we have to understand that when we chant Krishna's names, you don't need to be qualified. Actually, this makes a lot of sense. If God, if Krishna is so kind, then why would he want you to be qualified to come to him? We are coming to Krishna because we are not qualified. And therefore, by chanting Krishna's names, we become qualified. So there are no hard and fast rules to chanting. You can chant any time, you can chant any day. But what is very important is chanting and the value of chanting. If you recognize the value of something, doesn't that value enhance your appreciation of the object? It does, right? That's why sometimes people don't understand that when you chant Krishna's names, just like you would sit down and have a relationship with someone and pay respects to someone, in the same way when we chant Krishna's names, we should concentrate on his name. We should put aside a specific time to chant his names. It's not that every time you chant Krishna's names, what does it mean? It means you are inviting Krishna into your heart and you are inviting Krishna to your tongue. It's like inviting Krishna into your house. Now all of you have come. And Satish Prabhu, Mataji, you've all invited everyone. Supposing they invited all of us. And then after inviting us, right, nobody spoke to us. We were just sitting down. Everyone in the house just did their own things. Hardly 5-10 minutes we will stay, then we will leave. We do that to Krishna. And that is very dangerous. Because we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we chant it in between whatever we do. That's good. But where is your specific time for Krishna? Doesn't Krishna, the Supreme Creator, deserve our time? We have appointments with everyone. You have appointments with the dentist, the doctor, you have appointments with all your clients. But Krishna will do it in the night, or we'll do it when we have time. After all, you're in my heart. I'm always chanting your name. I walk, I chant your name. While you're chanting his names, you're not remembering him as you're walking. Very often when we walk around or we talk to someone, we say, I'm chanting God's name. But we are so distracted with everything else. It's like calling a guest and telling him, please sit down, and ignoring him totally. And then we wonder why the mantra is not working. Because we have not given value to it. It's a relationship. You get married to someone, and your wife is talking to you, and you're doing everything else while she's talking. After a while, what will happen to you? I don't want to say it, but what will happen to you? You know what will happen to you. You'll be in trouble. Because where's the respect? If we say we love each other, then you should drop everything, and you should concentrate on the object of your love. It's very important. Sometimes children get irritated with parents because they're talking to us, we do everything. And we don't realize that they want our attention. But we don't realize that we are not giving them the attention. And that's not fair on them. Many children grow up remembering, I was talking to Papa, I was talking to Mama, but half the time they were doing everything and saying, ha, 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 ha. That's not fair. Put yourself in the shoes of the child and see how you feel. No one loves to be ignored, and yet we ignore Krishna. Because we just chant whenever we want, we do whenever we want. That's why Bhagavatam says, if you chant Krishna's names, do not chant it whimsically. Do not chant it capriciously. Capriciously means whenever I want. When I feel very sad, I chant Krishna's name. When I'm happy, Krishna, I'm taking leave from you. After a while, when I'm sad, I will come back to you. That's not how it's done. And the basis of chanting is the amount of faith that you have when you chant. Lord Ram was in the middle of Lanka. Lanka was there, the mainland was here. And you all know that Hanumanji had come back after jumping across, and he had seen what had happened. And when he came back and he made his report, Lord Ram and the Vanaras, right, they all decided that we have to cross. Now, Hanumanji could cross, but not everyone had the capacity to cross. So, the Lord then decided that we will build a bridge. And that famous bridge, was built. So Lord Ram went into his camp, and by morning, he was amazed that almost the whole bridge was completed. So he was seeing all these Vanaras, Sugriva, Angada, Hanumanji, they were all doing one thing. They took stones, big rocks, and they were writing something, and then they were throwing it. So Lord Ram was quite amazed. How do the rocks float? Because rocks should not float, isn't it? They should sink in the ocean. But every rock was floating. So Lord Ram turned to Angada, Sugriva, and Hanumanji, and he asked, how is it that you're making the rocks float? And they turned to him and they said, we have faith in the name of Ram. So every rock that comes, we write the name Ram. And then we have faith that Lord Ram, you will keep the rock afloat. And then we chant your name and the rock floats. So Lord Ram was very impressed. He said, really, that's the case. So after they continued, Lord Ram went to the side and he took a rock. And after he took the rock, he wrote his name. And after writing his name, he threw the rock. But the rock went into the water. It didn't float. So, I think Lord Ram was transcendently embarrassed. What's happening? It's my name. It's not floating. And Hanumanji came to him smiling and told him, Lord, there's some problem here. And Lord Ram said, yeah, I'm writing my name, but it's going in. Why is that so? And Hanumanji said, because I have more faith in your names and your glories than even you have in your own name. This is the mood of a devotee. A devotee has so much faith in the name of the Lord that when he or she chants the name, it may appear to someone outside as very ordinary. But for the devotee, it is his appointment, her appointment time with Krishna. Nothing disturbs it. It is a clear and transparent bridge between the Lord and the devotee. That bridge, was not just a bridge to Lanka. It was a bridge built on bhakti. That is why bhakti built that bridge, and that's why that bridge brought Lord Ram to Lanka. That bridge was the service of his devotees to him, and that's why it brought him to Lanka. This is the point that Krishna, Lord Ram, and all the avatars try to show us, that the devotees of the Lord have more faith in the name of the Lord than even the Lord himself. It's a very important point. One more pastime that's very important, I remember, is in Dwarka. One time Satyabhama, on a Wednesday, I think, in Dwarka, on Wednesdays Krishna would give donations. On Tuesdays or Mondays, Satyabhama would give donations. So on that day, she was giving anything you come on that day in her palace, she will give. And Narada Muni came. And so he said, when he came in, Satyabhama was very happy to receive him. He said, Naradaji, you tell me anything you want, just ask me and I will give it to you. And so Narada Muni turned the tables around and said, all that I want is what you consider most valuable in your life. That's a very dangerous thing, if you think about it. That's why you ask people something, you should be very careful because you don't know what the answer is going to be. So for a while, Satyabhama thought, I have a lot of jewels, they are very valuable to me. I'll give it all to you. Narada smiled at her and said, are the jewels the most valuable things in your life? And then Satyabhama became scared because she realized, oh my God, he's asking for Krishna. Because Krishna is the most valuable thing in my life. And at that point of time, right, Satyabhama became very frightened. Because if she gave Krishna, Krishna would leave Dwarka and go with Narada. That thought was too frightening for Satyabhama. Dwarka, if you hear the Dwarka Vasis talk on the story, they will say that Satyabhama nearly fainted. So then she had an idea. She was after all Kshatriya princess, she wasn't so weak. She was strong. She said, I know what I will do. Krishna is most valuable in my heart. I will find you the equivalent of everything which is as valuable as Krishna and give it to you. Will you accept it? Narada said, if you can do it, then I'll accept it. Let's see. So she called for Krishna. Krishna came. Satyabhama and Krishna had a very interesting relationship. Unlike Rukmini Mata, who was actually softer in nature, Satyabhama was a bit, stronger in nature. And so Krishna very often appeared as the hand-packed husband to Satyabhama. Satyabhama said, Krishna, come. And he came. And she had this huge scale, before her. And she said, Krishna, you please sit on the scale. Just sit there and wait. And Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, fine, she wants me to sit also. So he sat there very silently. So now she got all the jewelry in her palace and she started putting them together, praying very hard that there would come a time when Krishna would move up and the balance of the scales would be achieved. Unfortunately for her, there was nothing in her possession that even moved Krishna a single inch from the floor. Nothing. And Krishna was still seated wondering when this is all going to end. And it didn't end. And Satyabhama became very scared because Narada said, well, there's nothing of value here, so I think I have to go with Krishna. So she said, wait. And then out of desperation, she called for Rukmini, her fellow queen. And so Rukmini Mata came. And she explained, Rukmini, this is very important, you have to help us. Your life is also at stake, because if Krishna leaves, all of us lose Krishna. So Rukmini Mata thought, what a foolish thing to do, Satyabhama. She looked at the situation, Krishna smiling, sitting there, very calm, all the jewelry stacked up and Krishna not moving at all. And she said, throw away all the jewelry. Krishna is not worth the weight of jewelry in this world. And she said, wait. She went to the courtyard. And when she went to the courtyard, she went to Tulsi Maharani. And you all know Tulsi Maharani is the most cherished, dearmost devotee of Krishna, right? And so she took Tulsi Maharani. And after taking her, she very small, because her leaf is very small, she chanted Krishna's names and she wrote Krishna's name, just Krishna, on Tulsi Maharani. And she brought Tulsi Maharani and she put Tulsi Maharani on the other end of the scale. And the moment she did that, Krishna went all the way up. Not even balanced, all the way up. And then Rukmini Mata took the name with Tulsi Mata, gave it to Narada ji and said, this is what you need. And Narada was so happy. Why was Narada happy? He didn't get Krishna, but he got something more. Shastras tell us that the value of the association of the devotee is to a devotee sometimes even more precious than the value of the Lord, because devotees are more merciful than Krishna. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, is a bit strict. But in Bhagavatam, when you see the mercy of the devotees on demons and on envious persons, you can realize that devotees are so precious to Krishna because they are the ocean of mercy personified. And so Krishna became very pleased, Narada became very pleased, Rukmini Mata became very pleased, Satyabhama became very relieved. These are very simple pastimes, but they tell us one very important point, that knowing the holy name alone is not enough. But today I ask you all to go home and take with you the value of the holy name. That is very important. Very important. Someone took a diamond, one time in a village. And he took the diamond and he was a disciple of a spiritual master. And he said, I have a valuable diamond. What should I do with it? Does everyone know the value of the diamond? And the spiritual master said, why don't you go and give some people the diamond and see what they will do with it? And he said, all right. So he took it to the Dhobi wala. Dhobi was just hitting the clothes. So he said, sir, do you want this? Dhobi said, I don't know what this is, but maybe I can put it there and I can hit my clothes on it. And the man said, no, give it back to me. And then he went over to the rickshawala. Rickshawala thought, I don't know what this is, but all the time I'm putting my feet on the floor and I have so much calluses. Maybe I can use this stone and, get rid of the calluses. And the man said, no, give it to me. Please give it to me. And he came back to his spiritual master. And he said that, I have realized today that though diamond is valuable, many people don't understand its value. They don't understand its value. So we may have something very valuable with us, but it doesn't mean that we understand its value. So if we don't understand its value, then we will not use it well. We will not appreciate it. And most importantly, we will lose out the effect of it. That is very important. How often in our relationships, we took our parents for granted until they became old or sometimes they left the world. And then we look back and we say, so many moments I never valued them. But today I'm valuing them. But I've lost the value because it is gone. So the holy name, if you really want to connect with the holy name, please appreciate its value. When you appreciate something, then what happens to it? Its value appreciates, right? It's two words, but they mean the same thing. If you appreciate something, the value appreciates. When you don't appreciate something, its value depreciates. It's common sense. And therefore, when we chant Krishna's names, please know that these names have come from Golok Vrindavan. They've actually come down to this material world, but the name is untouched. The name is untouched. And by chanting it, you will realize and experience that the name is untouched. Just by chanting Krishna's names. And that is why today, I wanted to just remember this very great Namacharya that I told you about, Haridasa Thakura. Haridasa Thakura was not born into a Hindu or Vedic background. He was actually born into a Muslim background. But when he took up the chanting of the holy name, he recognized the value of it so well and chanted it so purely that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is not different from Krishna, actually bestowed on him the title of Namacharya. It tells us a very important thing. It doesn't matter what background we come from. It doesn't matter what religious beliefs we have or don't have. Chanting is transcendental to religious beliefs. That's the important thing. You don't have to be a Hindu to chant. You don't have to be a certain denomination to chant. You don't need to be of a certain caste to chant, a certain creed to chant. You don't need to be of a certain status to chant. A child can chant, a boy can chant, an old man can chant, anyone can chant. But if we know the value of what we are chanting, the chanting will act. Even if you don't know the value, Shastras tell us chanting is so powerful it acts, just like fire. If a child doesn't know what is the greatness of fire in the sense that it burns, does it mean the fire will say, oh, it's just a child, I will not burn you? No. The beauty and purity of fire is that it burns. Whether you are a child, you're an adult, you know, you don't know, it will burn. The holy name is like that. Whether you recognize its value or you don't, it will act. But if you recognize its value, it acts deeper. It acts deeper. And that's what we want to do. Haridasa Thakura lived his life, being persecuted because of his belief in chanting the holy names. And he lived very recently, right, in the 15th, 16th century. He's a historical figure, actually. And the beauty is that even though he was chanting the names of the Lord continuously, he would always set aside a particular time. And during that time, he would chant the names of Krishna. And during that time, there would be no disturbance. One time, the ruler of that area, they wanted to distract and they wanted to stop the popularity of Haridasa Thakura. And so what he wanted to do was, he got a lady, a very beautiful lady, who actually took up this service on a payroll and said that I just give me one day. I will come and visit Haridasa Thakura in the night and I will distract him with my beauty. So Haridasa Thakura was chanting and chanting when this lady came and stood before him. When he saw her, he just told her, what is it that you have come for? Is there something I can do for you? And she said, you are such a young man and you're wasting your time chanting. Why don't you enjoy yourself with me? And Haridasa Thakura said, you have come asking for something. It is my duty to give it to you. But this moment is my moment with Krishna. It is my appointment with Krishna. So please give me time for me to chant my rounds. And after I finish chanting my mala, then I will gladly accede to your request. So in the meantime, you sit down and wait. And so this lady waited one whole night. And at the end of the night, right, she was very tired. And he hadn't finished his chanting. So she said, I will go back. And she was determined on the second day to actually get him. On the second night, the same thing happened. Haridasa Thakura said, you wait. And after you wait, when everything is done, I will be with you. And again she waited, but nothing happened. But she was determined on the third night. And when the third night came, she sat down and she was hearing the holy names being chanted by Haridasa Thakura. And as he chanted 2 nights in a row, pure chanting, her heart began to melt because she became attracted to the holy name. When Haridasa Thakura finished his chanting, there was still time. He said, now I'm here to serve you in any which way you want. And this lady fell at his feet and told him that after 2 days, I came with a material motive. But by hearing the names of the Lord, I now realize today that there is no attraction for anything material which can supersede this taste of chanting the holy names of the Lord. This is a very important point. Very important point. And so then she asked, what should I do now? And he told her that if you want to renounce everything to chant the holy names of the Lord, I'll give you this place. You sit here and you chant in front of Tulsi Maharani. And so this lady, who was actually in the employ of the ruler who wanted to demean and defame Haridasa Thakura, became a great devotee of the Lord. So the power of chanting cannot be underestimated. It cannot be underestimated. Do you know, towards the end of his life, Haridasa Thakura was going to end his life. He was sick. And one day one of his associates, Gopinath Acharya, came to see him. And he said, "You're not looking very well, Haridasa Thakura. What is your disease?" And you know what Haridasa Thakura said? He said, "My disease is that I'm not able to complete my prescribed rounds of chanting." Can you imagine? Someone who's chanting every day devotedly to Krishna, and yet he had the humility to say that I'm not qualified because I've not given enough time to Krishna. That shows us the mood of how much value we should attach to chanting. So my request is, set aside time for Krishna in your own lives. Now we're going to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? It's kirtan. Kirtan is very wonderful. But sitting down and chanting Krishna's name silently in the sense that you are alone, but when you chant, it is known as japa. And that chanting is very important. Daily, all the devotees here, they chant 16 rounds a day. 16 malas, right, on your bead bag, on your japa, tulsi mala, will take you approximately 2 hours. Sometimes people think, how in the world do you have 2 hours just sitting down and chanting? You can't sit for 2 hours, it's fine. You can chant 4 malas, it takes you only half an hour. And half an hour for the Supreme Creator who's given you everything is not too much to ask, I would think. What's half an hour for Krishna? And if you can't do that, do 1 mala. 1 mala of chanting hardly takes 10 minutes. And I'm sure we can give 10 minutes to Krishna. It's very important. Otherwise, what will happen is I'll see you again next year. And we'll all be in the same issues, with the same problems. And we'll wonder, I should have done this last year. And then the mind will tell you, no, you're still young. The following year, that's okay. Very often the mind tells you, when you retire, you can do this. But I tell you one thing, if you have lived your life in a certain way, after retirement, it's very difficult to change the way you have lived. That's the practical point. That's why spiritual life must start early. If it hasn't started early, it must start now. Let's chant Krishna's name, shall we?